Come closer, my friend, and let your heart be still for a moment. The world rushes forward, ever louder, but my story begins in softness, in the delicate sigh of a piano note, in the murmur of longing beneath velvet fingers. I am composer, pianist, dreamer, exile. What I give you now is not merely a tale of dates and deeds, but of aching beauty, of the sound of home in foreign lands, and of how even the quietest soul can stir the very core of humanity. Let me begin at the beginning. My name is Frédéric Francois Chopin, and this is my life as I lived it. A star is born in Żelazowa Wola. I came into the world on March 1st, 1810, in a tiny village called Żelazowa Wola, not far from Warsaw. Poland was a land of poets, of ghosts, of defiance, and I carried all of it in my blood. My father, Nicolas Chopin, was a Frenchman who taught and tutored in Polish aristocratic homes. My mother, Justyna Krzyżanowska, was gentle, deeply cultured, and filled our home with music. From the very start, music was my companion. By the age of 5, I was imitating folk songs on a small piano, and before my 7th birthday, I was composing mazurkas that made grown men weep and nobles whisper my name. They called me a prodigy, the second Mozart, they said. But to me, it never felt like a miracle. Music was simply the language my soul chose to speak. Warsaw's wonder child. Warsaw was the cradle of my youth, a city of candlelit salons, rising national spirit, and tragic dreams. I studied at the Warsaw Conservatory under Józef Elsner, who, bless him, saw something unique in me. He wrote, "Chopin, Frédéric, remarkable talent, musical genius." But I was not one for boasting. I preferred to speak through sound. At 14, I was already performing in aristocratic homes, astonishing guests with my light touch and the emotional power I coaxed from the keys. I soaked up the rhythms of Polish dances, the mazurka, the polonaise, and wove them into my music like a painter mixing light and shadow. But even then I felt a restlessness, as though my destiny lay beyond Poland's borders. Paris beckons. In 1830, I left Warsaw. It was meant to be a short trip. I never saw my homeland again. I arrived in Paris, a city ablaze with artists, revolutionaries, and elegance. There, I found myself surrounded by the likes of Franz Liszt, Hector Berlioz, Eugène Delacroix, and George Sand. Yet, I remained quiet, reserved, not out of arrogance, but from a deep, aching melancholy. Poland had been partitioned. My country was bleeding under foreign rule, and I, though safe and celebrated in the salons of Paris, felt exiled from my heart. Still, I composed. I poured my sorrow and longing into nocturnes, etudes, and ballades, pieces that blended Polish spirit with French refinement. They say I made the piano weep. But sometimes, I think it was simply echoing the sounds inside me. The revolutionary composer. My early works in Paris captured attention, but it was my etudes, Opera 10 and Opus 25, that forever changed the course of piano music. These were not just technical exercises, they were landscapes of emotion, lightning storms of arpeggios, lamentations in minor keys, desperate climbs and gentle falls. I wrote nocturnes not for sleep, but for the soul, quiet moments that shimmered like stars against a velvet sky. My ballades told stories with no words, tales of love, loss, and myth. The polonaises, proud and thunderous, carried the pride of a wounded Poland. And the mazurkas, the mazurkas, they were my secret code, the heartbeat of my homeland stitched in rhythm and dance. I did not seek fame, I sought truth. George Sand, A Storm and a Shelter. In 1837, I met her, George Sand, born Aurore Dupin, novelist, revolutionary, a woman like no other. Our love was passionate, stormy, and complex. She sheltered me at her estate in Nohant, where I found the peace to compose some of my most enduring works. The Preludes, Op. 28, 24 miniatures of life and spirit, each in a different key. In Nohant, I wrote with fevered focus. The barcarolle, the berceuse, the sonata in B minor. Each bore the stamp of my inner world, delicate, precise, but filled with an intensity that words could never capture. But love is not always enough. Over time, illness, jealousy, and distance corroded what once brought joy. In 1847, George and I parted. I was never the same. Illness and the requiem of the soul. My health was never strong. Tuberculosis clawed at me for years, each cough a grim reminder of my mortality. Yet, I played, I taught, I wrote, as though defying death with every note. In my final years, I performed fewer concerts, though one remains etched in memory. My recital in London in 1848. The applause thundered, but inside I was already fading. By 1849, I was confined to bed. Friends gathered at my side. Delacroix, Princess Czartoryska, Jane Stirling, who tried so dearly to nurse me back to life. I asked that Mozart's Requiem be sung at my funeral. On October 17, 1849, I died in Paris. I was 39. My body was buried in Père Lachaise, but my heart, my literal heart, was returned to Warsaw, sealed in a crystal urn in the Church of the Holy Cross. I never returned in life, but in death I came home, the eternal voice of the piano. And so, my friend, what remains? My music. Not merely notes, but breathings of the soul. I showed the world that a piano could sing like a voice, whisper like a lover, rage like a patriot. My works are still played, not as relics, but as living dreams. I gave you the waltzes, light as silk. The scherzos, wild with laughter and darkness. The fantasy in F minor, a tempest of longing. The funeral march, now eternal. I gave all I could. And that's another chapter from the pages of history, proof that the past is filled with legends, leaders, and visionaries who shaped the world we live in today. But history is far from over. There are still so many incredible stories to uncover. So if you enjoyed this journey through time, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to History's Icons for more legendary tales. Who or what should we explore next? Let me know in the comments. Your idea might be the next great story we bring to life. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode of History's Icons, where the past comes to life.